segregated south of Daytona, Florida, went to the train station to go to high school in Jacksonville. Now his family dropped him off at the train station, gave him money for his fare, and left. What they failed to do was give him just enough funds to also take his baggage. So you can see Southwest didn't exist back there either. But the boy, like any other boys his age, not really having that sense of self-sufficiency, did what any stranded child would do. Dropped down to his knees and cried. And then out of nowhere, a black man, a stranger, came by, didn't console him, but just gave him the money for his baggage. Years later, when the boy became a man, and he wrote in his life story, The Head and Heart, the autobiography of Howard Thurman, he dedicated it to this stranger who restored a broken heart. Howard Thurman? Howard who, you say? Even to many theologians, black historians, and followers of Christ, lack the true knowledge and essence of this man. He bridged many eras. He was born the son of a former slave in the horse and buggy era. He died the year the PC was made. He preached the philosophy of common ground, which taught that all human beings need to seek a spiritual happiness that will lead them to share that experience in community with others. Mr. Thurman not only was educated in Florida, but later matriculated to Howard University, where he also became the dean of the Howard Chapel. From there, he moved to missions around the world. In fact, he traveled to India, where he asked Gandhi, what message should he take back to the United States? Gandhi said he regretted not making nonviolence more visible as a practice worldwide, and suggested that some American spiritual leader could succeed where he has failed. In 1944, Howard Thurman tenured his position at Howard University and moved to San Francisco to found the Church of Fellowship of All Peoples in San Francisco. It was the first racially integrated intercultural church in the United States. He served as the co-pastor with a white minister, Dr. Alfred Fisk. Many of their congregation at that time were African Americans who had moved from Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas for jobs in the defense industry. This church created a new community for many in San Francisco. Later in 1958, he moved to Boston University, where he became the first black person to be named the dean of a chapel of any majority white university. While he served on the faculty at Boston University, he influenced many members and many of his students. One of his students was Dr. Martin Luther King. Now, people know that King took his learnings and he left a lot of his writings there at Boston University. But what many people don't know is that Howard Thurman and Martin Luther King Sr. were classmates at Morehouse. And so Martin Luther King always saw Howard Thurman as one of his father's peers and greatly respected him. Mr. Thurman moved forward, Reverend Thurman moved forward to see that he would never be viewed in the public light with the martyrdom that Martin Luther King had. In fact, many of his critics said that he was a backbencher for the civil rights movement. He was more preoccupied with spiritual and mystical meanderings than being on the front lines of the protest. And yet King himself said he would much rather be gently and powerfully moved through the world with spirit, grace, dignity, and humility of the words of Howard Thurman than to march at the feet of the governors of Alabama and Mississippi. Howard Thurman, before his death, saw that America has a special place, not just in history, but in God's kingdom. That just as God saw a vision to free his people from Pharaoh, he saw that vision for the people of color here in the United States, suffering under Jim Crow laws and the legacy of slavery still existing in the 20th century. If anything else, I just want to close with one of Howard Thurman's great quotes. He said, "Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. The community cannot feed long on itself. It can only flourish where always the boundaries are giving away to the coming of others beyond themselves." And lastly, he said, "When the song of angels is still, when the star in the sky is gone, when the king and princes are home, when the shepherds are back from their flock, and when the work of Christmas begins, we go to find the lost. We go to heal the broken. We go to feed the hungry. We go to release the prisoner." I leave you these words of Howard Thurman, a follower of Christ, a maker of men, and certainly a great Christian theologian of any hue that you have ever known.